We become so protected by what we believe are government regulations that are there to protect our health and welfare. And in many cases, that's not necessarily the case. And I think it has been proven since Howard started delivering his message that things like a mad cow in the world can happen. He was one of the first people that I know of nationally that had the courage to stand up and start warning the world that a disease like mad cow could happen and would happen if they didn't change their ways.
It was the summer of 2002, and I felt strongly that the environment, the animals, and the family farmer were in trouble. And that Congressman Kucinich, one of the only vegetarians on Capitol Hill, would listen to me. I thought it was really interesting when they went out and they actually went to the feed preparers, and they found that 20% of them were out of compliance. Now, in England, they banned feeding of all animals to animals. What we did, it was just ban feeding cows, sheep, and goats back to cows, sheep, and goats. But we still allow the feeding of cow blood back to cows.
If you're discovering that the compliance which is necessary to assure public health security is not being obtained, then we have an obligation to get after the FDA and get them to do their job, which is the job of assuring that the food that's consumed in this country is safe for consumption. And furthermore, there's an issue of how we deal with the animals themselves in a humane way.
One of the bright spots of the day, actually come talk about an issue and find a member of Congress not only wants to do something about it, but has the capability of making some sort of an impact.
We came to Washington, and Howard got very deeply involved in the agriculture issues, thinking that this is where he's going to make a difference to help the family farmer to survive. Well, 5 years on Capitol Hill proved that it was very, very difficult to get anything done. He decided to go to the grassroots and talk to the people, and that was a part of the progression.
Everything that we started doing in the early 90s around Beyond Beef, around Pure Food Campaign, around Center for Food Safety's work, things like that, basically have helped build a growing movement towards a greater connection with the food that you eat.
The people aren't just walking in their supermarkets and picking up, some slick packaged piece of meat. They are making the connection. They're not letting this distance hide from them the cruelty and really the criminal cruelty that's happening to these animals. Because people like yourself have gone to community after community to show them the actual pictures. This is actually what's happening. This is what, and I think once people see it, most people are good people, they don't want to be responsible for this kind of cruelty, but they have to get that crucial thing of awareness. And I think that's the change we're seeing, particularly the younger generation. They are aware. It's no longer a secret. They know the cruelty that's going on. And that's why I think once people know, they're going to make sure it stops.
This is my entire life. The reason that I did what I did is because of the love of the animals. To stand belly deep in grass, to end up being able to commune with cows. Look in their eyes. There's not a bad bone in these cows' bodies.
The environmental movement does not always think about another set of species, and these are the domesticated animals, the animals that are in such close relation with humans that we've completely transformed how the animals live from the moment they're born to the moment they're slaughtered. It's a problem that compassion is not often extended to them. But I think that that's a leap that the environmental movement, groups like World Watch, will have to make. Not only if we want to come to grips with the ecological problems associated with animal production and begin reversing them, but I think it will ultimately be one of the strongest and most compelling arguments that we can make for people to stop eating meat. and thereby prompt this great reduction in the environmental toll of meat production. I mean, the planet has had a hard enough time sustaining high meat diets of a relative minority of the global human population, mostly Americans, Europeans, Japanese, and some wealthy elites throughout the rest of the world. But the scenario of 1.3 billion Chinese, or the majority of India, or the majority of Africa moving to a high meat diet is almost inconceivable from a resource perspective, let alone from a public health perspective.
We're going to PCRM, Physicians Committee on Responsible Medicine, and to a guy by the name of Neil Bernard. He's a doctor. Did you ever think growing up in North Dakota we'd ever see the day they'd be selling bottled water?
It's astounding how things have changed. I mean, it used to be the meat case, the dairy case, small amounts of vegetables, that was pretty much it.
Do you have any experience on something like this?
I'll tell you, when I was a kid growing up in North Dakota, it was bologna sandwiches and whatnot every single day. That was the way we ate. And somewhere along the line, we started to ask ourselves the question, why is it that we have 4,000 heart attacks every single day in this country? Why is it that a third of Americans succumb to cancer? And it's not all genetics. It's not all the air we breathe. Part of it is what's on our plate, and that's got to change.
Well, it amazes me, being an ex-cattleman myself, how many times I go around the country now and somebody comes up to me when nobody's around and saying, you know, I raise cattle. Of course, I don't eat them anymore. 1996, when I was in England, the Minister of Health stood in front of Parliament and said, we no longer can assure the English people that mad cow disease cannot be transferred from cows to humans. I did 70 press interviews in 9 days. When I came back to the United States, I got a call from Oprah Winfrey's office, and they said, we would like to do a show called Dangerous Food. Could it happen here? I did not go on the Oprah show to say something that I knew to be false. I went there to inform people about the practices that we were doing in factory agriculture, grinding up cows and feeding them to cows. Now, Oprah, when she heard this, she turned to the man from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association and said, are we feeding cows to cows? After a significant pause and a few ohs and ahs, he said, well, a limited amount of that is going on. Oprah was horrified, and she said,
it has just stopped me cold from eating another burger. I'm stopped.
And I can remember thinking right then, oh my God, it's going to be a great day. Little did I understand that we were going to get sued for $180 million. Little did I understand that we were going to do a show for 20 million people, and by the time we got done of being in court, that over 200 million people would know about the issue.
And I really didn't get concerned about it until the time came when Howard was sitting in the courtroom. And there was a gag rule. And the only thing that I could learn that was going on is what I heard on television or in the newspapers. Howard could not call me. He could call me, but he couldn't talk about the trial. That was a very stressful thing because I didn't know what my husband was thinking. I did go down there and I sat in the courtroom for about 3 days, and then I learned what stress was. It was very, very difficult. It was difficult to see people doing what they were doing to my husband for no good reason, for speaking the truth. And I didn't understand that. That was frustrating and frightening, that when you're trying to tell the people what's really going on, you get sued and you get belittled. And it was difficult. I learned that my husband is very strong, and he really cares, to the point that he will sacrifice himself, his reputation, whatever, for the better good of the planet and for what he believes.
The trial was a